Is it really necessary to learn grammar? Because if you think of it, most of it seems too complicated to be true. But actually, there is an easy way to do it. All you need is a structure in your head. And today, in this video, I'm sharing my favorite way of ordering things in your head so you can turn the passive grammar knowledge that you already have into active usage. And of course, I'm answering the question, why is grammar important?
I can hear your voice.
Hi, I'm Julie. I make English easy, structured, and stress-free. And if you like the video, please give me your thumbs up. I'll appreciate it. And also there is this pretty red little button below. Hit subscribe and I will be grateful to you forever. Have you noticed that when you read or listen to things in English, grammar rarely becomes a problem? Because even if you don't understand something there in the text or in the audio that you're listening to, you can still figure out the meaning from the context. Conversely, when you have to say something or write something in English, that's when you stop and think, now, how do I make this sentence? And sometimes you may come up with something like, I am very like my friend, or he is the best learner language in my school, or something like this. And these aren't the worst grammatical mistakes because you can still understand the meaning. However, it just doesn't sound right. While for an occasional communication, if you are a tourist somewhere abroad in an English-speaking country, let's say, and you have to book a table at a restaurant or to book a hotel room at a hotel, it might work okay for you as long as people understand what you want. But if you harbor some higher aspirations, for example, you have a job offer somewhere in England or in America or any other English-speaking country, or you want to study in an English-speaking country, then of course your speech and your ability to write things has to be accurate. Now, accuracy or grammar is of course not the only thing that's important, and I think that you know that better than I do, because the second thing that's very important and the one that we all want to have is fluency. Right, we all want to sound like native speakers, to speak fast, without hesitations, without pauses, without being lost for words, without getting our mind shut down. That's what we all want. But is there any use in saying something fast but not correctly? Like, you can know the words that absolutely correspond to the topic, but you can't make a sentence out of them because you don't know grammar. And this is just useless, because you can't communicate clearly. So yeah, grammar is important, but the next question is, how do we learn it so that first, we don't give ourselves a stroke, and another one is how to learn it this way that we can use it, that it just doesn't end at filling the gaps exercises. Right now, I'm going to talk about I'm going to talk about two approaches that I use with my students to learn grammar, to make it fun, easy, and structured. The first approach allows you to revise grammar that you already know and to recap on the grammar that's passive. And by passive, I mean that you don't use it when you speak or when you write, but when you see it somewhere in text, you'll have the feeling that you've seen this somewhere before but can't figure out what it really is. So the best way to activate grammar is to start noticing its patterns in the texts, in the audios, like when you listen to podcasts or when you read a book or anything. It kind of sounds very similar to what other people tell you, that you have to expose yourself to as much English as you can, and fluency and accuracy will come to you over time. Just wait for it, listen, read, and it's gonna work. But it doesn't happen this way, at least with everybody, because there are multiple people who have been spending years on watching Netflix and on reading English articles or English books, but nothing happened. They had the words in their heads, but they still couldn't connect them. When it came to speaking or to writing something, their brain shut down. So my point is, if this approach of just exposing yourself to English works for you 100%, and your brain is able to build the connections between grammatical patterns by just watching something or reading something in English, that's perfect. You don't even need to open a grammar book. But if it doesn't happen this way, if you still have lots of questions in your head and you don't know how to make a sentence in English, your mind goes blank when you have to speak or write something. It just shuts down. Then, of course, you can think that this is not quite something that works for you. That's why coming back to the point I've made before about revising grammar through films, books, any material in English, you would ask me, how am I supposed to know what grammar to focus on? And that's why this is a supplementary approach, which is just used to revise. And now we've come to the nitty-gritty. To know what grammatical topics you have to work on, first of all, you have to find out what your level of English is. And the best way to do it is to go to a language school and get a placement test. Because, I'll explain, if you take a test online, and there are so many of them right now on the internet, the result isn't going to be very accurate because you're just going to be tested on reading comprehension, on grammar, and that's it. If you're also tested on your listening skills, then you're very lucky. Speaking is left unnoticed. Once you know your level, the next thing you have to do is to get a course book, right? You'll just need the first page of it for right now. Open the content page, and if you look at it, you'll see a table with multiple columns. You need to find the column with grammar. Then you have to copy all the grammar topics that you find there on a separate piece of paper using a pen, or just to a separate file on your computer. You'll need that. This is going to be your roadmap. You see, I treat any process of learning as a project. And when you have a project, you have to know where you're at right now, where you want to go, and what steps you have to take. We have just made this roadmap for you to follow. Next thing that you have to do, start checking yourself. Start with the very first grammatical topic there is in the book. My list of grammatical topics at intermediate level looks like this. And this one is the actual list that I use with my students to check their knowledge. Now I'm going to walk you through every step of the process of catching up with the grammar that you've forgotten or learning new topics, the same way I do it with my students in class. So we start off, let's say, with present perfect tense. You look at it and you first have to check if you can actively use it. If you can make a sentence with it, that means that this is your active grammar knowledge. So make a sentence. My sentence would be like, I've watched this film. Then you have to know why exactly you use present perfect in here. I know in this sentence I don't mention when exactly it happened. If I said, for example, I watched this film yesterday, then yes, that would be past simple, exact time in the past, and that's why I would use that. But don't relax, that's not it. So try to make as many sentences with present perfect as you can, and try to make them different. And also try to use different forms, the negative form, the question, the affirmative form. So it's great if you can include sentences with since, for, already, yet, lately, this month, this week, and so on. All the aspects of present perfect tense, and to make the sentences both negative, questions, and affirmatives. If you have done that and you're like 100% sure that you're all good, it's still worth checking yourself. So get a grammar book and try to check yourself there. Look at the examples first. For me, it worked the best way to look at the examples because back when I was learning English, when I was a student, before I went to study in Alaska, I would never understand rules. Rules were too difficult for me, too much text in them, didn't like them. So look at the example sentences and see if you got yours right. If some of them are not correct, then you have to go to the rules and check them. For example, you wrote I has been instead of I have been or something like this. This is the form mistake. Then just look at the examples and correct yourself. But if there is a mistake in the meaning, like you've used the present perfect with the word yesterday or any other time marker, then you have to go back to the rules and check when you have to use the tense. And here I'm just talking about the present perfect, but I'm sure you can figure it out how to do it with all the rest of the grammatical topics. So once you're done checking yourself, you have to go to active practice. And this is my favorite part because you're gonna have to talk to the most wonderful person in your life, to yourself. And if you don't know what to talk about, you can go to the first page, to the content page of a course book, the textbook, the student's book, and find a column with topics. Because every grammatical concept serves us to be able to talk about some particular topic. Now, of course, a textbook doesn't give you the list of all topics around the world, but the general understanding, that's what you're going to get from there. So for example, with present perfect, I know that I use it to talk about my experiences. Alright, so have a conversation with yourself about things that you've done. Or you can use present perfect to talk about things that you have just finished like 5 minutes ago. Yeah, but you don't say 5 minutes with the present perfect. So while you're talking, try to make your sentences as personal as you can, because no one else can hear you, right? But if you can relate to what you're saying, this is the best way to learn anything. And now we have come to the very first approach that I've mentioned before, and this is the revision using video, audio, podcasts, Netflix, anything you can think of. So now you have to watch a video in English and notice present perfect everywhere. I just want you to remember that enough accuracy practice is your bridge to fluency. So take small steps, learn one topic at a time, but focus on it, study it deeply by checking the meaning, by checking the form, for your brain to figure out how it works, to build its own system. And then move on to listening, reading, to the noticing tasks. And you'll see how grammar will turn from a terrible monster in your head to something that you enjoy. Bye for now.